and welcome to this session of Social Pharmacy. My name is Dr. Sharad and today we'll be learning about syllabus introduction. So what do I mean when I say syllabus introduction? So syllabus introduction basically means that we'll be learning what all are the chapters which are contained in your social pharmacy textbook. And not only this, we will briefly see what these chapters contain as well, or we can call it as content. So now let's begin. So first we need to understand what is social pharmacy. So social pharmacy can be considered to consist of all the social factors that influence the medicine use. Now what do we mean when we say social factors? These are nothing but what society thinks regarding medicine use. So this is what is going to influence the medicine's use. So now these social factors can be medicine related beliefs, they can be rules and regulations, and they can also be ethics and behavior. So coming to medicine related belief, we all are aware of COVID-19 now, correct? But when it came out, there was a lot of confusion and panic among all of us. Now why was this? Because there was no treatment for it, correct? But then what happened? The government and various agencies, they started to introduce vaccines. And with these vaccines came different beliefs of people regarding their safety and their efficacy. Correct? Some of us believed that whether this vaccine is going to be safe or not, will it harm us, what will be the side effects of it. And there were a lot of rumors that it might shorten our lifespan, it might cause us to have paralysis, etc. And there was also rumors about its effectiveness, that they are not effective or they are very effective, etc. Next, coming to rules and regulations. So rules and regulations basically means what we should do with the medication which we have. Can we give it to our friends or relatives? How should we store them? What to do with expired medication, etc. comes in rules and regulations. And then we finally come to ethics and behavior. This we can basically say what is right and what is wrong. So I'll give you a simple example. Like it is right to treat a patient who's having a disease, correct? Simple enough. But it is wrong to illegally export medications which the government has told not to export, correct? So just like this, there are various ethics and behavior. This is what we are going to basically learn in social pharmacy. So why social pharmacy in this course? See, to impart basic knowledge on public health, epidemiology, preventive care, and other social health related concepts, and also to emphasize the role of pharmacists in public health programs, we should be learning social pharmacy. But what does it mean? See, as pharmacists, what is our main and primary role? Our main and primary role is to help people, correct? Now to help people, we need to understand what they think. What are their beliefs? Then only we can treat them in such a way that they can be cured as well as their beliefs are kept intact. This is why we need to learn regarding social pharmacy. Because what was social pharmacy? We were going to understand what people think, correct? Regarding medicine use. So clearing any of their doubts regarding how these medicines work and what all things should be avoided or what all things should be done, how the medicine should be taken, all these things come under social pharmacy. So this is why it is important for us to learn what social pharmacy is. Now we look at what are the course objectives. So this course will discuss about basic concepts of public health and national health programs. This means that we will be learning regarding public health as well as we will be learning what all are the national health programs which are available in India. Then we'll be learning regarding preventive healthcare. See, we always say the saying, prevention is better than cure, correct? So what are the preventive healthcare programs which are available? About that also we'll be learning in this course. Next we'll be learning regarding food and nutrition related health issues. Did you know that in Indians, vitamin D was found to be the most lacking vitamin in all of us, even though we are prone to more of sunlight? So such nutritional deficiencies and how to treat them is what we'll be learning in this course as well. Then we'll be learning about health education and how to promote good and well health in others. Then finally we'll also be learning regarding the general roles and responsibilities of pharmacists in public health. Now you might be thinking that if I am going to learn social pharmacy and if I am going to learn D Pharma, then why don't I just read some other textbooks which are available and learn from there? Why to study with book with teachers? So according to the research which we did, we found that 60% of the students fail in D Pharmacy. Yes, you heard me right. 60% of the students fail in D Pharmacy. Now why is that? So for this, we went to the D Pharmacy students and we asked them what all are the problems that they are facing when they are trying to learn D Pharmacy. And through book with teachers, we tried to solve most of them. So let's look at these problems and then I will tell you what all are the solutions which we found to these problems. So coming to the first problem, lengthy and confusing concepts were found to be a very major thing. Now for this, what we did, we made the data into easy flowcharts and diagrams with animations, so that you can easily remember the data and through which you will be able to pass the exam with ease. Next we found that there was a difference in lecture content and textbook content. So for this, our solution was to make the same lecture with the data which is present in the textbook. So what you will be learning in the textbook is the same thing you will be learning when you listen to our lectures. This way there will be no confusion. Next what we found was that understanding English for some students was very difficult. Now if you don't understand the language itself, how are you going to understand the content? And if you don't understand the content, what are you going to write in your exam? Correct, no? So this is why what we did, we are going to bring the lectures in two languages. One is Hindi and another is English. This way students who are comfortable in which language, in that language they can learn. Now only one teacher explaining the concept was found to be a deficit when we asked the students. So for this, our solution is to bring two different teachers for teaching the same concept to you. This way, if you are not able to learn from one teacher, you will be able to learn from the second teacher. Now one of the most major problems which we always face is that the textbooks which we are learning are always of very high number of pages. That means they are very lengthy. They can be from 500 to even 1000 pages of textbook. Now you only tell me, if you are trying to learn and if you have that initiative also, after looking at such a fat textbook, will you want to learn? No, correct? So this is why what we did, our textbooks are just having around 100 pages each. Now you might be thinking, how is this possible? This is possible because we are only bringing to the point content. After you finish your D Pharma, there are often times where you are not having any knowledge regarding the pharma industry. You are left in the dark. So for this, the solution which we found is bringing you pharmaceutical entrepreneurship management programs, through which you will be having some background knowledge of the pharma industry. Now sometimes what happens that you might miss a lecture or you might not be listening to the lecture properly and you might miss a few points in that lecture. And once that lecture is finished, it's finished. You can never re-attend that lecture. This was a very common problem which was found among the students. So for this, we are bringing you video lectures. So with video, what is the major benefit? You can keep rewatching the video again and again till your concepts are cleared. Generally, when your D Pharma course is going on or when it's finished, you have no idea regarding what are the pharmacy career options which are available to you because there's no one to tell you. This is where we come in. We are going to keep you updated regarding all the pharma related news which is available so that you're always informed and you can take an informed decision. These are all the solutions we have found to the various problems of why students were failing in D pharmacy. And with this book with teachers, we are hoping that you are able to pass your exam in D pharmacy with ease. Now coming back to social pharmacy, let's look at what all are the chapters we'll be learning in this subject. So in our first chapter, we'll be learning regarding introduction to pharmacy. In our second chapter, we'll be learning regarding preventive healthcare measures. In third chapter, we will learn about nutrition and health. In our fourth chapter, we'll be learning regarding microbiology and epidemiology. In our fifth chapter, we'll learn about the concept of communicable diseases. In our sixth chapter, we'll be learning regarding national healthcare programs. And finally, in our seventh chapter, we'll be learning about pharmacoeconomics. So let's begin by briefly looking at these chapters one by one. We have divided this index into 5 parts. So in basic introduction, we'll be having chapter 1 and chapter 2. And then in part 2, we'll be having our chapter 3. In part 3, we'll be having chapter 4 and chapter 5. And in part 4, we'll be having our chapter 6. And in part 5, we'll be having our chapter 7. So let's begin. Into our part 1, which is basic introduction. So here, chapter 1 is introduction to pharmacy, which has 3 parts. Part 1, part 2, and part 3. So let's look at what they are one by one. So in part 1, we'll be learning about definition and scope of social pharmacy, as well as we'll be learning regarding the roles of pharmacists in public health. Now in part 2, we'll be learning about the concept of health based on WHO's definition. Now who's WHO? WHO stands for World Health Organization. So according to them, what is the concept of health is what we'll be learning. Now not only this, we'll also be learning regarding the various dimensions and determinants and health indicators. So what do I mean by determinants? So see, health is influenced by many factors, which may generally be organized into 5 broad categories. Okay. So in this, our first category is genetics. Okay. Our second is behavior. Third is environmental and physical influences. And last is medical care and social factors. Okay, so these are the 5 broad categories. Okay, which are based on the determinants of health. Now this 5th category, that is medical care and social factors, it encompasses 2 things, which is economic and social conditions that influence the health of various people and communities. Now, next coming to part 3. So in part 3, we'll be learning regarding the national health policies, which is an Indian perspective. So now what are national health policies? See, I'll give you an example. You all remember Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? So what was the mission of this? One was obviously to keep India clean, correct? But another was to provide safe water and sanitization by 2020 to everyone. So this you can say is a national health policy. So just like this, there are various national health policies which we'll be learning about. Now we'll also be learning about public and private health systems in India and also the National Health Mission. Further, we'll be learning regarding the introduction to Millennium Development Goals. Okay? And then we'll be learning about Sustainable Development Goals and also about FIP. Now, what is FIP? It is International Pharmaceutical Federation. So, what it is, what are the roles of it, is what we'll be learning. Now, coming to chapter 2, we'll be learning about preventive healthcare measure. So, this chapter is divided into 5 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5. So, in part 1, we'll be learning about demographic cycle. Now, in simple terms, it means the evolution over a period of time of the population. Or we can say, suppose this was our population area, and here initially there used to be just one shop, okay, and people used to go by walking. But over a period of time, what happened? There was good development. That means there came up more shops, and that people also started traveling by the use of, suppose, say, vehicles like cars, bikes, etc. So this development or evolution over time of this population, this is what is known as demographic cycle. So we'll be learning regarding this. Now we'll also be learning regarding various methods of family planning. You must have heard the slogan some or the other time, hum do, hamare do. That means us too and ours too. This basically means that father and mother and their 2 kids. Now there are various methods of family planning, especially contraception. So what all are these? What are the various methods? All this we'll be covering in various methods of family planning. And not only this, what are the roles of pharmacist in family planning is also what we are going to cover. Now coming to part 2, we'll be learning about mother and child health and the importance of breastfeeding. See, initially when the baby is born, there are a lot of needed nutrients which are only present in the breast milk. And failure to provide this will cause lot of harm to the child later on in his life. So, this importance of breastfeeding we'll be learning in part 2. Now, ill effects of infant milk substitutes, like there are lot of other powders which try to substitute this infant breast milk. So what all are the ill effects of this we'll be learning as well, and regarding bottle feeding. Next, coming to part 3, an overview of vaccines. See, because of corona, now we all have some or the other knowledge regarding vaccines, correct? So we'll be having an overview of these various vaccines which are available not only for corona but for various other diseases. And also we'll be learning regarding the types of immunity and immunization. Now in part 4, we'll be learning about the various effects of environment on health. Water pollution is a big thing, right? You must have seen, especially in India, there are a lot of places where there is garbage or there are plastic bags or discarded food items which are thrown in water. So because of this, there is a lot of water pollution in that area and that water becomes unusable. Now this can lead to then various waterborne diseases. Okay, so now what are these waterborne diseases? These are diseases which occur because of bad water or contaminated water. So this can be like cholera, it can be diarrhea, it can be typhoid, hepatitis, etc. So all these waterborne diseases we'll be learning as well. And not only water pollution, we'll be also learning about air pollution, noise pollution, and others. Now coming to part 5. So in part 5, we'll be learning about psychosocial pharmacy. What does this mean? This means the drugs which are going to be misused and abused regarding these drugs we'll be learning. So these can be psychotropics, narcotics, alcohol, and other various tobacco products. Okay. So social impact of these habits on the social health and productivity is what we'll be learning in part 5. Now coming to part 2, which is nutrition and health. So in this we'll be studying chapter 3, which has 3 parts. Part 1, 2 and 3. So in part 1 we'll be learning about basic of nutrition, where we'll be learning regarding macronutrients as well as micronutrients. So now what are macronutrients? I will explain to you in simple terms. So as you can see in this photo, macronutrients are mainly carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Now these are the nutrients which your body uses in largest amount. Okay. So these are what nutrients? These are the nutrients which your body uses in the largest amounts. Okay. And why it uses these? To have energy and maintain body structure. Okay. Now then what are micronutrients now? So micronutrients are used to maintain various physiological functions. What are they used to maintain? Various physiological functions. So now what are these physiological functions? These can be to maintain body temperature, or to maintain water balance, or to have proper blood clotting, etc. So now what is blood clotting? See, if suppose you had an injury in your leg and now blood started to flow out. If you see though, after a short time the blood stops flowing out, correct? This is because of blood clotting. Now blood clotting occurs because of various clotting factors which are made because of micronutrients which are present in our body. So having proper micronutrients will ensure that our blood clots properly. Now coming to part 2. So in part 2 we'll be learning about the importance of water and fibers in our diet. And not only this, we will also learn about balanced diet. So if you are not having a proper balanced diet, it can cause malnutrition. Now what is malnutrition? Malnutrition basically means lack of nutrition. Okay. Now if you are having lack of nutrition, this can cause nutritional deficiency diseases. Okay. Like rickettsia, etc. And next we'll be learning about ill effects of junk food. That means all these chips, carbonated drinks, what all are the ill effects of these we'll be learning. And we'll be learning about calorific and nutritive values of various foods and what fortification of food means. Coming to part 3. So in part 3 we'll be learning about food safety, adulteration of food. Now what does adulteration of food mean? The most common example is, suppose there is milk, okay, in this container. Now this much is milk, but to make up the complete bottle volume, what some people do, they add water to it. So this means that they are adulterating the pure milk with water. So just like this, there are various foods which are being adulterated. So all this adulteration of food we'll be learning in part 3 as well. Then effects of artificial ripening. Now artificial ripening, a very good example of this is mangoes. If you have seen some people, what they do, they take an injection with some liquid which is actually an artificial ripener, and they inject this mango with this liquid. Now what happens with this? If this mango was going to ripen in say 14 days time, it will ripen quickly. That means in 7 days or even 5 days. So what are the effects of these artificial ripeners we'll be learning as well. Then we'll be learning about pesticides. That means the products which are used to kill pests. And then next we'll be learning about genetically modified foods. the dietary supplements, nutraceuticals. Now, what do I mean when I say nutraceuticals? So these can be various supplements which are containing different vitamins, etc., or iron, etc. So these are what are known as nutraceuticals. So what are they and what are their uses, we'll be learning. Then we'll also be learning about food supplements. What are the indications, benefits, and various drug food interactions. Into part 3, microbiology. So in this, it's divided into 2 chapters, chapter 4 and chapter 5. So in chapter 4, we'll be learning about microbiology as well as epidemiology. So in this, we will begin with introduction to microbiology and all the various common microorganisms which are present. Then we will move on to epidemiology, where we'll be learning introduction to epidemiology and its applications and understanding various terms such as epidemic, pandemic, endemic, mode of transmission, outbreak and quarantine, isolation, incubation period, contact tracing, morbidity and mortality. So let me explain just 1 or 2 terms for you to get a general idea. So what does epidemic mean? See, outbreak of a disease. If it occurs in a community, say for example it occurred in a region of India, okay. Now if it's occurring only in a region of India, it is called as epidemic. Now instead of just a community or a region of India, it started to occur worldwide. Now if it's going to occur worldwide, we call this as pandemic. Now a very good example of pandemic would be, can you guess it? It would be COVID-19. Because COVID-19 is spread throughout the world. It's not limited to one area. Next we come to chapter 5, which is concept of communicable diseases. So now what are communicable diseases? See, in simple terms, you can understand this, that communicable diseases are those diseases which spread from an infected individual, say this person A, to a healthy individual, person B, through various means. Now some of these means or methods can be through exchange of body fluids. Like say if the infected person sneezed and you were close to them, so you might get infected by that sneeze. Then other could be blood. This generally means blood transfusions. That means suppose if this is an infected person and this is a healthy person. So now because this person is infected, if you take their blood and you transfuse, that means if this generally occurs when there is some accident or when there is blood transfusion required. So this blood will then go to this person B, who's a healthy individual, and it might cause this person B to develop the infection. And another method would be through insect bites. Now say that this person's hand, this person is the infected person, okay. Now a mosquito say comes and flies and comes and it bites this person's hand. Now this mosquito has collected this person's blood along with the infection. And if this mosquito then goes to the healthy person and if it bites this healthy person, so there's a chance that the infection will travel through the mosquito's mouth into the person's bloodstream. And this will cause person B, who's a healthy individual, to develop a disease. So just like this, there are various diseases, or we can say infections, which are communicable diseases. So in this comes respiratory infections, intestinal infections, arthropod infections, surface infections, as well as STDs and HIV/AIDS. Coming to part 4, which is National Healthcare Programs. So here we'll be learning chapter 6, where we'll be learning about healthcare systems and all the ongoing national healthcare programs which are available in India. What are going to be their objectives? How are they going to function? What all are the outcomes? And finally, what all are the roles of pharmacists in these healthcare programs? So as an example, in India, there's a healthcare program which is called as PMSSY, which stands for Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana. So now what this healthcare program aims to do? It aims to make healthcare systems affordable for all. Okay? That means in every part of India, the healthcare system will be affordable for all the people. So they all can take the benefit. Finally, in part 5, we'll be learning about pharmacoeconomics. That means all the money related aspect of pharmacy. So here we'll be learning the introduction to pharmacoeconomics, the basic terminologies, and the importance of pharmacoeconomics. With this, we have finished our syllabus introduction of social pharmacy. I hope you understood what all Bookway Teachers is offering you as a D Pharma student, and I hope that I meet you in one of my lectures. Thank you and have a safe day.